We did a lot of weird shit for Saddam. Saddam had a favorite piece of ass.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He had his favorite fuck was this lady, and like, she was not hot, but she was married. So we figured maybe she knew where he went. So we rolled up her husband one day. So I land in Iraq. I get to the VVIP. Like, my fucking desk is a marble table 60 fucking feet long. I'm in this ornate room with bath party symbols on the ceiling. It's wood, it's marble. We got like a fucking 4-6 head gold shower. Like, I'm like, yo, this is war. That fucking thing hitting me in the nuts, the gold thing that's low. Like, this is how you fucking war right here, not fucking shitting in a hole. So in one day, I went from like shitting in a hole to like fucking gold showers. Loved every fucking second of it ever since then. It's fucking great.
How was the op tempo over there?
Iraq is amazing, man. We do 10 hits, 20 hits. Fuck, I don't know how many a night. You know what I mean? Like
10 to 20 hits a night?
Oh, yeah. It was
How the
awesome.
fuck do you do 10 to 20 hits a night?
Well, not only that, but during the Saddam fucking days, we might have to clear a whole village. Like, that could be 100 houses tonight. Like, door to door looking for these fucking Saddam sightings. You know what I mean? It was fucking amazing. It was amazing, man. I mean, you know, in the unit, I think they call it like a shred fest, where you do like 24, 36 hours, target after target after. As many as you could do. There's another one we could hit somewhere else, another one. That's what Iraq was, shred fest. And then my squadron, you don't want to sitting around the house tonight because we're going to get drunk and break shit. So, we don't care if it's Joe shit, the fucking rag man. Let's go get that bitch tonight. Keep me fucking busy. And I think a couple nights, like, guys fucked up the house, and the commander from then on was like, okay, you guys don't get any days off. And it's like, that's what we've been fucking saying the whole time. Like, no one's dying at Bragg. We want to go out every fucking night. You know what I mean? So my squadron, man, we were in the beginning, I believe, way more aggressive than other squadrons. Like, by far. You know what I mean?
Can you talk about, let's just talk about some of the operations that you were a part of there.
Let's see. Saddam was captured 9 days after I left country, and me and another guy worked the intel on Saddam like the whole time. I rolled up his tailor. You ever see the video where Saddam shoots the Mauser in the air?
Yeah.
And he's got the fox fur hat on? I own that hat.
No way.
Yeah, I own that hat.
Nice.
Yeah. But I rolled up his tailor. Like, I had all his clothes at one point, right? And I got this Italian sweater, and it's like blue and like a red stripe or some shit. I wear it on Christmas Eve. I look like a fat man in a little coat. Like, it's like a large, you know, my beer belly's hanging out the bottom. You know what I mean? Like, I normally wear that on Christmas Eve. I got a sweater from him. You know what I mean? But yeah, we rolled up his tailor. Everybody that fucking washed his dick, we rolled them up. Like, we were, you know, climbing it. And then 9 days after I left, C Squadron got him. And like, I think we already had the intel, and it was already in the works. We had to go home for Christmas. So they caught him 9 days after I left. But, you know, man, we fucking... one of those like kings or one of the deck of cards, you know what I mean? Like, I paid no attention to it other than getting the X off the poster on the wall. But like, you know, one of those guys, we fucking low vis shotgun breached the front door, right? Fucking held his family hostage, told his family, contact him. Till he gives himself in. Fucking guy turned himself in like 3 days later in Mosul or some shit. You know what I mean? We took his family hostage, just fucking in his family home. Like, we got his sisters, his grandma, his mom. Like, yeah, we did a lot of weird shit for Saddam. We captured Saddam had a favorite piece of ass. Like,
really?
Oh yeah. He had his favorite fuck was this lady, and like, she was not hot, but she was married. So we figured maybe she knew where he went. So we rolled up her husband one day, right? I had him go to the Saddam's tailor store. Had the tailor tell him to come to the store, and then then we had these Mohawk guys. You know the Mohawks.
Mm-mm.
We had locals that helped us, and we trained them, and then they ended up becoming later the CT force, right?
Okay.
But we had a couple guys we trained, we trusted, right? So I told my guys I was in a surveillance van out front, my minivan. If you ever see the picture where I'm all sweaty in the back of a van, this is me kind of watching over what's going on. So I didn't tell anybody. I didn't have time to tell my boss or anybody. And then my two guys, I was like, hey, if we can't get this guy quick, go start a fight on the street to get them all out of the store. So had my two Mohawks start fist fighting in front of the store. Just like anywhere in the world, right? Everyone comes outside to see what's going on. Literally, the guy comes out to watch, and like the assault team, like he's standing his back to the door they're going to snatch him with. And literally, shoot.
Oh, nice.
Fucking drive away. And then they're like, where'd the guy go? He disappeared in the crowd. My boss is like, he disappeared. I'm like, no, the assault team's got him. He's like, who the fuck are the guys fighting? Those are our guys. Did you tell him to fight? I was like, yeah. He was like, you should have fucking told me. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah. This happens so quick sometimes, you know? But yeah, we captured his favorite piece of ass husband, thinking that might help. It didn't. But in capturing everyone in his inner circle, what I would tell you is they were all Christians.
Were they really?
If you touch Saddam, I don't care if you touch his dick or you fucking put clothes on his body. If it touches him, it was Christians. Because Christians martyr themselves, they go to hell. Muslims martyr themselves, they're fucking going to heaven. So his inner circle, the people that fed him, clothed him, fucking washed his dick, we rolled them all up. They were all Christians.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And that's why there was always Christians in Iraq. And that's why Iraq was fairly Western. Because he had no beef with Christians. And he knew as human beings, less likely to kill him. That's all he wanted around him, his inner circle. Now, all the military commanders or whatever, fucking sheiks, I don't know, whatever the fuck they were doing, they were all savages. But his inner circle was Christians.
I'll be damned. I did not know that.
The re-emergence of international terrorism out of that safe haven is so profound. Everything that we're seeing from multiple very credible sources is saying that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They are in such advanced stages that those operatives are already here.
We got a Patreon account. They're our top supporters, been with us since the beginning.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them, and neither would you be.
Right.
And so one of the things I do is I offer them a opportunity to ask each guest a question.
Yeah.
And we had a ton of questions.
Really?
Yes, for you, but I narrowed it down to one. This is from Tori Miller. Since your last interview with Shawn and the interviews with Legend and Commander Massoud, do you think we will have to go back to Afghanistan to fight the Taliban? If so, do you believe since our botched withdrawal that our relationship with partner forces and other tribes are now strained?
Man.
I thought this was a great
Well,
question
it's a
because
great
we've talked
two-part
about
question,
this.
right? That's a great question. So yes, I do think that we will have to go back, and my logic behind it is that the re-emergence of international terrorism out of that safe haven is so profound that everything that we're seeing from multiple very credible sources is saying that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I'm sure you and I'll talk more about this, but they are in such advanced stages that those operatives are already here, right? So when it gets to that point, it is very difficult to stop it. What I believe is we unfortunately have a very short memory in this country. You know, when you look at 9/11 happened just over 20 years ago, and you remember where the country was and those smoldering ruins and how we felt during that. There was this collective simmering anger of just retribution, and they turned guys like you and me and our units loose in Afghanistan for retribution. I mean, President Bush, said it from the pile with the megaphone. He said, they're going to hear from us real soon, and it was a pursuit of justice, right? And you had the yellow ribbons come out and the Budweiser commercials, and everybody was fired up, and we were a nation that at war, and we deployed a very small percentage of these young men and women into a country that frankly had been at war for 4 decades. Like, that's all that country knows is war. And what's interesting, though, is you think about Osama bin Laden quietly killed Massoud's daddy, Ahmed Shah Massoud, 2 days prior, because he knew that was exactly what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And he knew that we would go to Panjshir and that we would partner with Massoud. And he had the foresight, the strategic foresight, to whack the resistance leader 48 hours before dropping, through strategic surprise, the Twin Towers, hitting the Pentagon, and would have hit the Capitol. So think about that for a second. This was over 20 years ago. This was the level of strategic breadth and depth that Al-Qaeda possessed, okay? Today, through your interview with Sarah Adams and others, it's excruciatingly clear that they have far surpassed that capability today, not just in terms of fighters, but in their sophistication. They're operating at a whole different level now. And so they want us in the fight. The enemy has a vote. They want us to respond. We may be done with Afghanistan, but they're not done with us. It's not done with us. And so what you can bet on is that they are going to outdo the last attack, and they are going to do it at such a level of emotional impact that we will have no choice but to respond, because it's going to take us into a sympathetic state of retribution.
Yeah.
And there will be outcries for payback. And all of these folks that have written checks to the Taliban and done all these ill-advised policy moves, they'll just skulk back into the shadows. They'll disappear. And the Budweiser commercials will hit again, the country music songs, the yellow ribbons will come out, except this time it'll be my kid, maybe yours, on C-17s. I think it'll be sooner than when yours would be ready to go, but it certainly could be mine and other people watching this. It could be our kids on those C-17s, and I think that they will go. The difference takes me to the second part of the question. I did a scene at the end of Last Out in Tampa that had never been done before in my play, where we actually turned the lights down at the end of the play, and we had Danny Patton, the Green Beret's son, Caden, like we heard this blackout sounds of the country's been attacked, and this is at the end of the play, and it says, America is now responding. We think there are troops heading to Afghanistan. And as the lights come up, Danny's son, Caden, is now full kitted up. He's now a Green Beret, and he's rolling his parachute up. And stepping out of the shadows is a commando in tattered rags. He's got an M4 tricked out, and all of the patches that he once wore, but it's all ripped up to shreds, and he's got his weapon leveled right at Caden. And Caden just looks up at him, and there's this standoff between these two in this moment. And then we drop the lights, because that is what our kids are going to walk into. They're not going to walk into the reception, I believe, of a resistance that is waiting anxiously for them to get there, and, you're going to have this link up of unconventional warfare. I think what you're going to have are thousands of pissed off commandos and special forces and interpreters who were left behind, who've lost their families, who've been co-opted in many cases by bad actors. And the very organizations that we trained that would have been the vanguard are now going to be probably who we have to deal with face to face. And I'm not saying we can't, I'm not saying we won't, but it is a completely different scenario this time, because we wholesale abandoned a partner force that has, to this day, 3 years later, is still being hunted. And to think that we could just walk back into that country and say, hey, we're back, how you like me so far? It's not going to go down that way.
I've learned so much history from putting these interviews together with you, and I've learned a ton of information. And one of the things that just that sticks out to me, that I say on every news interview, every time we talk about this now, I say it. You told me 9/11 was a $500,000 budget.
Yep.
Now the government has come out and publicly said that they have accidentally given them $239 million. We know it's more than that.
Yeah, that's a conservative estimate.
but we know it's 40 to 87 million a week.
Absolutely.
But even if it was just $239 million, well, that is what, 480 times, 478 times the budget that they had
Yeah.
on 9/11.
Yeah. And they're 10x bigger, probably close to 80,000 fighters. I think they had something like a couple thousand before 9/11. I'll have to check those numbers. And don't forget, too, they just had a couple of operating bases in Afghanistan at that time. You had Tarnak Farms, which is near Kandahar Airfield, and a few others. But you've got every NATO base that we built over there. Camp Brown, you've got Bagram, you've got Bastion, all of the infrastructure, all of that was just left behind. And so they've rolled right in on these bases with well-designed training areas and ranges. And they are training at a level that's unprecedented, and you think about that, the advent of technology that is accessible to them now. Think about the proliferation of drone technology that we're seeing coming off the battlefield in Ukraine. I mean, how fast has that advanced?
Yeah.
And we already see that the attack in Russia at the theater, October 7 by Hamas in Israel, these are all local distributed attacks of horrorism. Horrific attacks, not World Trade Center type things, but where we live, work, and play.
I think the most likely and the most dangerous scenario is Iran and Israel right now. So obviously the Israelis are on high alert. They just had this terrorist attack. They're dealing with Hamas. What if in North Israel, a bunch of Iranian-backed militias start killing thousands of Israeli civilians? Okay, so the Israelis invade, do the Iranians counterattack, and now you have Israel, Iran in a regional conflict. The Turks probably have to get involved. The Saudi Arabians probably have to get involved. And then that is the sort of thing that could balloon into World War III.
Let's talk about how close we are to potential World War III and nuclear warfare.
Way too close.
How could this go if it doesn't go? How could this end up in World War III?
I think a couple of different ways, right? So I'm sure that Russia has red lines, some of which we're not even aware of in Ukraine. You get to a situation where is a Russian red line crossed? They're a nuclear power. Do they start using tactical nuclear weapons in Eastern Ukraine? If that happens, then probably at least some of the Eastern European countries like Poland have to get involved. That balloons into a World War III scenario. I think the most likely and the most dangerous scenario is Iran and Israel right now. So obviously the Israelis are on high alert. They just had this terrorist attack. They're dealing with Hamas. What if in North Israel, a bunch of Iranian-backed militias start killing thousands of Israeli civilians? Okay, so the Israelis invade, do the Iranians counterattack, and now you have Israel, Iran in a regional conflict. The Turks probably have to get involved. The Saudi Arabians probably have to get involved. And then that is the sort of thing that could balloon into World War III. And then the final thing, man, is China wants Taiwan, right? Everything that we have tells us the Chinese want Taiwan. America, I think, has left Taiwan in a really crappy position because we've sent all our weapons to Ukraine. The Taiwanese, I don't know that they could repel a Chinese invasion right now. And so do the Chinese invade Taiwan? That leads to some sort of accelerating conflict there. So there are basically at least 3 hotspots in the world right now that each have the potential to become a major worldwide conflict. It's really scary. And this is one of the reasons why I say, you don't want an incompetent as president of the United States right now. You go back, look, there are some people I disagreed with. I disagreed with a lot of George W. Bush's foreign policies, obviously disagreed with a lot of Barack Obama's foreign policies, but these were fundamentally capable human beings, right? Mm-hmm. Donald Trump is a capable human being. I think more than capable, but I'm biased. Kamala Harris is not a capable human being. Do you really want, in the midst of a high-pressure conflict, her negotiating with Xi Jinping about Taiwan? Or do you want her over there in Moscow or Kiev negotiating with the Russians, with Vladimir Putin about the peace settlement in Ukraine? This is scary, scary stuff. And you talk about a person like Kamala Harris who can't even answer a simple question without retreating into slogans and talking points. What about when the cameras are off and she's in a private room with world leaders? That's scary, scary stuff. And that's maybe what worries me about more than any of her domestic policies is what happens if the shit hits the fan. I don't think Kamala Harris can handle it.
Why do you think China hasn't made a move on Taiwan yet? It seems like every chess player on the globe has made the move since the Biden and Kamala took office. And so why hasn't China made their move yet? What are they waiting for?
I think there are a few different explanations, and maybe all of them are true, at least a little bit. I think one thing is, even in a relatively weakened position, it's not an easy military maneuver. So maybe the Chinese don't want to kill a lot of people, especially their own people. Maybe that destabilizes them politically. That's one solution or one possible answer. I think another possible answer is, look, Xi Jinping, my understanding, and this is all, guesswork, we're sort of judging with imperfect information, but my understanding is that he is not in the strongest position politically right now, that 5 years ago or maybe 5 years in the future, he'll be in a slightly stronger political position. And so maybe it's more likely to happen, say, not in 2027, as opposed to, so 3 years from now, as opposed to right now. The other thing that you hear is maybe that the Chinese don't think they ultimately need it, right? So maybe we're actually misunderstanding what their calculus is. Maybe their attitude is they can control Taiwan from the outside without ever having to invade it and control it from the inside.